Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, acts of hate emanate from hearts filled with hate. And our colleges and universities have an obligation to ensure that they do not cultivate an environment of hate or racism by their action or by their inaction. The heinous acts of hate evidenced by the terrorism undertaken by Hamas on October 7th may be the most prominent recent example of hate-filled anti-Semitism, but the hearts that undertook this terror are not isolated just to Hamas terrorists. Unfortunately, anti-Semitism has found a prominent and a safe refuge on our college campuses, and this is simply unacceptable. Let me be clear, there is a distinction between free speech involving honest debate on college campuses on the one hand and support for groups that call for the annihilation of another race on the other hand. Surely that difference is clear to the reasonable observer. One of the ways that I think colleges and universities have promoted anti-Semitic speech and behavior is through their DEI offices, and we were just talking about that a second ago. But staff at diversity, equity, and inclusion departments on many college campuses are noticeably anti-Semitic, and they go about their work in a manner contrary to the stated intent of treating all with equity. 2021, Mr. Chairman, you referenced a study that Heritage did, a report on anti-Semitism of DEI staff at universities. They conducted a search of Twitter feeds of 741 DEI personnel at 65 universities to find comments regarding Israel and, for comparison, China. Those DEI staff tweeted, retweeted, or liked almost 3 times as many tweets about Israel as tweets about China. And notably, of those tweets about Israel, 96 were critical of the Jewish state, while 62% of the tweets about China were favorable. Consider that for a moment. The DEI staff favor China and oppose Israel. In my view, this explains in large part the lack of response towards anti-Semitic instances by DEI staff on college campuses, and it seems clear to me that there are a number of higher education institutions whose DEI staff are disconnected with the values and strategic objectives of the U.S. What's more, they are clearly anti-Semitic. Ms. Tartak, I want to talk to you because you're at Yale University presently, and I noticed just doing a little Google search of Yale back in April, Yale brought in, on the second night of Passover, they hosted a speaker. Their DEI office hosted a speaker known to promote anti-Semitic views, including justifying the murders of Jews and Israelis. I want to talk to you about your experience and whether or not the DEI office at Yale has offered you any support. Have they, in fact, offered you any support?
Again, no. Assuming you're referring to Huria Butelja, who there's a photo of her holding a sign that says, again, verbatim, Zionist to gulags. The DEI office did not do anything to prevent the event. It was, as a matter of fact, as you stated, supported it. And of course it was hosted during a Jewish holiday where Jews couldn't show up. Similarly, my friends and I were unable to get into a recent pro-Hamas event co-sponsored by so many departments at Yale. They don't help.
Yeah, and I presume that in the past 5 weeks since the Hamas attacks in Israel that the DEI department at Yale has not provided you any support or frankly provided you assurance that you're going to be safe and secure in your own college campus as a result of the anti-Semitic speech and actions on that campus.
No, they haven't. Again, for the most part, my Jewish peers and I have receded exclusively into Jewish centers of life on campus. And what's upsetting about this uniquely is that DEI, at least a lot of what I've been seeing, fails to recognize that Jews can be oppressed, but only recognizes Jews as some kind of white oppressor, which to me doesn't really make sense as a Persian Jew on one side. My mom escaped revolutionary Iran in 1979. And on the other side, my grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. His mother, brother, and sister were shot by a Nazi firing squad. And so to have an institution look at me and say, you are the oppressor, really should frighten us all.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And Ms. Burdett, you mentioned earlier, I think you used the phrase that some DEI offices were not, quote, set up to look at certain white individuals as those folks being oppressed. And I think that's one of the big problems with DEI offices is, frankly, we start categorizing people by how they look or what their race is, instead of looking at the heart of folks and understanding what true hate is and what true hate is not. And it works against the values of American democracy. And frankly, it works against the morality that undergirds the freedom that should be evident and should be there for all members of the human race. With that, I yield back.